Hello there. Hello. I was listening to some Brandenburg Concerto number 3, third movement. And I was, trying to conduct. I was conducting. It was wonderful. You might know Herbert Blomstedt, a Swedish conductor who's almost 100. He conducts with his hands, no baton. I like conductors who conduct with their hands. So, I want to talk today about music. Now, I'm a professional violinist that's my profession. That was my profession. I suppose it still is, because I have pupils and teach, but after my stroke, I haven't been able to play the violin yet. So I'm not allowed to say that will never happen, because when the golden rule of having a stroke is never say never. You never know what's going to happen. You must never ever say never. Things might happen that the brain is wonderful. God is wonderful. And anyway, things may happen if you allow them to. So I might play the violin yet one day, but that's okay. I've had a career of 50 years, and maybe half of that was as a performing violinist on stage, playing quartets. I played in more than two quartets. Met my wife playing in a quartet or quintet in Switzerland. I've played as a soloist, Violin concerti, Viotti and Vivaldi and all sorts of things, again in Switzerland. I played at La Scala, La Piccola Scala, with a quartet. That's a famous opera house. You might have heard of La Scala. I played with the Radio Symphony Orchestra in Italy. I played, orchestral musician as well, especially summer seasons, seasonal sort of. I was what you call a freelance professional violinist, and then I went into teaching, as did my wife. And I have a ex-student who records for Deutsche Grammophon. Now, what I want to talk about is listening to music. Simply listening to music, because it's a wonderful therapy. I'm almost ashamed to say I refused to listen to music for a year or something, because I was so upset after my stroke that I couldn't play. Music was just reminding me and taking me somewhere like, what is my purpose in life? How am I going to carry on living? That was scary. And then I decided, wait a minute, I know so much classical music. How can I not listen to it? It's a wonderful thing, and people write music for people to listen to it. It's meant to be, okay, I can't make it anymore, but I can certainly listen to it, and that's the message. It needs to get across by listening. If you don't have a listener, it doesn't work. So that suits me. That suited me fine, and I discovered it was great for therapy. So when I had a stroke 3.5 years ago, a brutally aggressive, horrific stroke, a week after my stroke, because I couldn't do much for a week, I was given a pair of headphones and some, in hospital, and I couldn't feel I couldn't feel any of the right side of my face, so it was hard to get the headphones on. I couldn't even feel my hand. I didn't know everything was missing there. I started to listen to music once I got it on. Wow, what could I hear? It was incredible. I heard music like I've never heard it before in my life. Amazing. Why? Because I could hear the emotions, I could hear the intent, I could hear depth, I could hear the prosody, I could hear the message, I could hear the true meaning of the music in a way I'd never heard before. So that was absolutely fascinating. The emotional depth, I was listening to it on a deeper level. And then later, a couple of years later, I learned what was happening. I had a stroke on my left side, the analytical side of my brain. So that's normally inhibits the creative side, the right side. Right side is creative, left side is analytical, is a computer, is watch out, be alert, be careful, do this, do that. Well, it's too much of that, and you shut it, it suppresses your creative and expressive side, the meaning, the warmth of music, the message. So because there was less analytical side, the expressive side of my brain was let loose, let free, and it was able to penetrate the music and hear the hidden message that was not getting through as clearly before. So that was super interesting, and after a year, I think that eventually wore off to some degree, but it's still there to some degree. And I'm going to tell a couple of interesting stories here. Another couple of interesting stories to go. So that was my first experience. After a stroke, I heard hidden meaning, which has been reported by other stroke patients. They have perceived music in a different way. Anyway, so that, in a good way, I must say. So that was the first thing I noted. Eventually I came round to listening to music again. And about the same time, I discovered earthing. Now, here's another thing that happened. So I would come out, do my earthing, maybe without these on, without the headphones and music. So what happens with earthing is that you calm down. You're outside, breathing beautiful air, sunshine, moisture, light, and the negative charge of the earth. You equalize your electrical potential with that of the earth, and you calm down, and you go into something called, eventually, it takes a bit of practice, but eventually you entrain into alpha mode. Now, alpha mode is the electrical activity in your brain slows down to match that of the earth, the Schumann resonance, we call it, 7.83 hertz. Now that's the way we're designed. That's our default mode. Modern life happens in beta mode. That beta mode is alertness. High beta mode, above beta you've got gamma mode. That's multitasking on a super level. But let's start with beta mode. If you've got a competition, if you could be fired, you have to be very alert, capable, switched on, and that's high level of alertness. Next level, if you meet 6 or 7 new people, you want to be mildly alert. You've got to learn a few new names. Low beta mode is when you're reading. So when I read my Kindle, I know and reading it efficiently and reading it efficiently, that's called low beta. You read it, you don't have to read it 3 times to realize what you've read. You're reading it, it's going in, you're focused, you're coherent, you're switched on, you're connected. You're following. You might lose low beta, you might go into higher beta. Now, earthing gets you into high alpha. That's almost starting to become a bit more drowsy. So you can take some magnesium to help, because when you earth, you're standing on magnesium, which is in chlorophyll. But But magnesium has this calming effect. And before you're calm, or as you become calm, if you pursue that path, you also can build on coherence, which is a focus of the mind. And that is wonderful for listening to music, because music cannot go in. You cannot input music. You cannot let it in if you're too highly strung in high beta. You have to be in at least high alpha. If you're in mid alpha, it goes in even more. You soak it up even more. Now, why? That is so interesting, because when I started earthing, I discovered that if I met earthing and the Schumann resonance with a bit of meditation, or perhaps listening to music, I could, the two things could meet each other synergistically and develop, helping each other, basically. So that is a wonderful mode to be in, to listen to music. Because when you're in alpha, the music goes in. You remember it. Amazingly. Not only that, I know I'm in alpha because I can do more than read. I can let the music envelops me, it surrounds me, I let it in. The music then I become the performer. I focus so much on it that without effort, I'm surrounded, and my whole universe is so coherent and focused on this one voice that I hear. Or maybe it's a symphony, or maybe it's just a soloist, for example. So that's a special mode. And if you're a violinist in an orchestra, say, so you have to be highly alert and accomplished, get things right, absolutely, presentation has to be great, because you might be making a CD or something. So, but here's the thing, if you're performing as a soloist, you're giving a recital or something, your brain is operating not only on this hyper alert beta mode, but expressively also in alpha mode. You're aware of the two things. You're operating in high beta, but you're giving a message and shaping that message, which is on lower alpha mode. And I think the greatest musicians do this. They multitask and operate at different frequencies. Of course, if you're an adult beginner or something, there's no way you're going to be aware of what you're doing. You're just struggling to get notes across. So that's different. Now, so here's the thing. I discovered that being in high alpha mode, let me talk a little bit more about alpha mode, because in alpha mode, we're starting to get in touch with our subconscious mind. And if we go into theta mode, we start to sleep, or maybe we go into theta before we doze off to sleep. And there's one more stage called delta mode, where we're almost brain dead. The brain's barely has any activity. And if you start to dream and have rapid eye movement, that will bump you up into theta mode again. Because theta mode is rapid eye movement, and if you might wake up from that or something. You're closer to waking up from that. So low alpha mode has this calmness about it. It has this presence. It has this meditative quality to it. It's a wonderful for healing. It is where you need to be. It is where you need to be. We don't want clutter. We don't want worries. We don't. We cannot heal with those conditions, with those, with that mood going on. We need this quietly collected, expressive, warm, homely, comfortable, safe, and that encourages a coherence of thought, then you can hear and let things in. Now, and another little thing I wish to mention that ties this all together. When you're 2 or 3 years old, your brain operates in theta mode. That's your default mode. That just happens because you're very young. You go into alpha from, when you're 6 years to 10, 11, 12 maybe. Alpha mode is your default mode. Your brain operates in that mode. Then you move up as we get older until you become an adult. After the age of 12, your brain is practically in beta mode because, an adult needs to do so many things, get things done, get them done properly, pay the bills, get to work on time, run the family, etc., etc. That's all beta mode. And we lose the ability to listen to music. Why? Because we're living in a busy world. And so to listen to music, you can listen to music, you can switch it on the car radio. You're not going to be letting it in though. Have you ever listened to something but yet not heard it? Looked at something and not seen it? Yeah, of course we have. Because we're not operating at a deeper level, a slightly slower level where we let it in. Now, so I discovered this alpha mode. I discovered it lets music in. I discovered I have lost it as an adult, and now I'm re-finding it because I'm reconnecting with nature and earthing, connected electrically to the earth with my feet, connected to light, sunlight, to the air, outdoors. Now that's all very important because you cannot heal if you're in a bad place. No way will your body heal if it knows that the boss up here is agitated, is worried, is thinking of the next problem. That's not what we need. What we need is something called heart entrainment. So I'm reading a book called The HeartMath Solution, and it talks about the heart, being aware of your heart, letting your heart, giving it space, perhaps starting off with appreciation, letting it have positive thoughts from your heart, you heard me correctly, and entraining, then encouraging the brain to lock on into these frequencies, to become coherent, and eventually entraining the whole body to follow your heart rhythms so that you achieve this coherence. So this is another way. It's almost at a level of meditation. So a teenager who meditates, allows heart coherence and is out in the open, and that's the maximum. Yes, we do age, but guess what? We can get in touch with nature. We can open our heart coherence. We can let music in. Far easier said than done because we live in this busy world. But bear with me a little longer. So I started to listen to music in a special way, and in alpha mode, what was happening was that I was letting music in. I was learning new music at an impressive pace. Now, when I was a teenager, I listened to Beethoven. I loved to listen to music. I remember listening to Beethoven symphonies after the first hearing, maybe the second. I already could whistle and hum back the melodies. And so I know all the quartets of Mozart, all the quartets of Beethoven, all the symphonies of Mozart, all 41, all the symphonies of Beethoven, and an incredible amount, Mahler and Brahms. No, there are some of Mahler I didn't know, like his Fifth. I'd heard his Fifth, and of course I knew the famous Adagio because of the Paolo Visconti film Death in Venice. But guess what? I thought the symphony was a mess, and there's such a clutter of... I didn't realise that, for example, we have not just 7 voices, we have 7 moods that intertwine and overlap. It's a cacophony of sound that, I never came to terms with Mahler's Fifth. But guess what? Recently, realising my heart, my brain and my heart are in alpha mode, I listened to Mahler Fifth. Didn't take 1 or 2 hearings. It took maybe 3 or 4 or more. And eventually that cacophony, that clutter of sound started to make sense. And I learnt Mahler's Fifth. I finally learnt it. Because all the music I learnt was in my teens or 20s, when you just soak up new things. Like somebody... it's interesting. I stopped reading books. I would read an incredible amount of science fiction, hundreds of books, up until my late teens, or maybe up until the age of 20. Then it was all music, and the words were gone, and everything was the language of music. After my stroke, a couple of years after my stroke, I became fascinated. I wanted to work in my laboratory. I wanted to fix myself. I wanted to learn what's going on here, what can I do? And I have read 135 books, and I thought, how did I have that ability? Well, one of the methods was to go into low beta, easily done when you're earthing, you see. And I had lost that ability, I think, to read a book. I would read a page 3 times before going to bed, because I couldn't remember what on earth it was saying. I have to go over and over and over it, and I would not be letting it in. Well, guess what? I come out of my lawn, and I'm so focused on the book. But when my brain goes even lower into alpha, out of beta, I then say, now I should be listening to music. And I get on to Nielsen's First or Third and all sorts of things that I've never had a chance to listen to. And not only am I listening to them, I'm letting them in. I'm experiencing the emotions and the thrill as if I were a teenager again. It's fascinating. So I think healing is about getting out the way, getting the boss out the way, keeping him happy, busy, not busy in a beta way, busy in an alpha way, creative in a sense, creatively, and very happy, because then our cells in our body know that the boss is happy, and they say, hey, we can get on and do our business and recover. Because if you're anxious, if you have anxiety, no way can your body heal. Too many doubts. And the biggest healer of all, of course, is in my faith in God, because that's how to get the worries out the way. It doesn't matter how much I worry anyway, because everything's up to God. God is in charge. So I acknowledge that, and it takes a huge burden of me trying to figure out what's wrong with me. I can't deal with that. It's beyond me. and I realize my recovery is in the hands of the Lord, and I'm very happy it is. And I'm very happy with the Lord. I have wonderful friends and a fantastic wife, and I still have a wonderful life to live. And no, I do not play my fiddle, but you know, my glass is half full, not half empty. I can do so many things. I can do a YouTube clip without anyone's help. That's good. Did I say everything about listening to music? No, I didn't even talk about music, classical music. Oh, by the way, Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, the Passions, the Passion of St. John, St. Matthew, Karl Richter, Peter Schreier, Helmut Walscher, organist, amazing. Glenn Gould, Glenn Gould, absolute genius. His Goldberg variations. Milstein, Schering, Grumio, Rostropovich's solo Bach on the cello, and Mozart, Pariah's Mozart piano concerti, Carl Böhm. There are many good Abbado, Cripps, Joseph Cripps's Mozart symphonies with the concert cabal. They're gorgeous. I love Sibelius, my wife, Sibelius symphonies, and recently in alpha mode out on my lawn I learnt many of his new tone poems, Scaramouche and Belshazzar's Feast. Wow, I never heard them before. Now not only have I heard them, I've memorized them. I will know, if you play that for me, I will say what it is exactly. His symphonies I already knew. Dvorak, there are some Dvorak symphonies I did not know. I was a quartet player, and there are some Dvorak quartets I perhaps still do not know. I know most, and the Schubert quartets, etc. But this isn't about what to listen to, because you might have your own tastes. It's the fascination with earthing and how it brings me, enables me to listen to music. I am guilty of listening to music during my 40s, 50s, and not letting it in, and thinking, well, I love Giulini's Beethoven Third. I love Giulini as a conductor, Carlo Maria Giulini. I love Herbert Blomstedt. I love Karajan. I'm a fan of. It's Carl Böhm is ridiculously solid and coherent. So there's so much good music that says so much to me. I don't know how I could live life without it, because I can still listen to it, and I played it all over Europe. So anyway, those are good things. Those are good things to tap into. I hope that something has made sense, especially the different modes of alpha. How do we start? Gamma mode, then we go into beta, alpha, theta, delta mode. These are 5 gears, 5 modes of operation and frequencies. As the brain thinks more actively, it steps up. But the one exception is that alpha mode, I can quickly get into alpha mode by taking magnesium, becoming drowsy, etc. But building up coherence is another level. That's coherence within alpha that focuses the mind, if you like, magnifies the focus and the ability to concentrate while taking everything in. And it's absolutely astounding what a coherent alpha mind can accomplish. Amazing. And I couldn't do it if I weren't earthed, because there's a big trick there. There's a big story about that. It's an electrical story. When we equalize with the electrical potential of the earth, what happens in our body is amazing. So I'm writing a book, electrons from Earth. And who knows, maybe 6 months it will be ready. Okay, well, thanks for listening. I hope that's helped. Let's carry on listening to music.